Morning. I'm very sweaty. I just worked out, but I've had a whole bunch of people tell me that I need to write up a blog about moving into an RV and all that good stuff. And quite honestly, I love to write. Love to write. And this whole coronavirus thing, I don't want to be on the computer any more than I have to be, and it's just weird. Super weird. So what I thought I would do is just do a video about it. So the backstory is about 7 or 8 years ago, I was on Pinterest. Pinterest is the basis for all evil, I'm convinced. I was on Pinterest and I saw this little video of this super cute hippie yoga girl, and she was giving a tour of her school bus. And her school bus was super cute. It was very beautiful and lights everywhere and plants and all the things that screamed to me. And I must have watched that video 5 or 6 times. And husband in a former life had an RV. He used to go to the football games and stuff and that, but I've never had an RV. I've had a boat, I've done all sorts of water things, but not an RV. So I just kept watching that video, and then I started a little Pinterest board about school buses, which are called skoolies, Skoolies, and it's a whole subculture. And so, as you know, you can go down a rabbit hole in Pinterest. So, over a few months or so, I had collected quite a board on school buses and, how to make a bed and how to make a kitchen and how to do, all these things. It was like taking a craft project to the nth degree. So then I just didn't really think much of it. I just, played around on Sunday nights and just kind of played with that. Well, one day I was pulling out of my street to go to work, and a big red bus, which down here, a big red bus, it says big red bus on the side, is a Bloodmobile. And this Bloodmobile went by and it had a for sale sign on it. And everybody laughs at me and they think that I'm making a joke when I say this. But I swear to you, this is what happened. I saw that bus and the sun shined on it and I heard the angels sing and I was like, oh, hell no. And so I started following the bus and wrote down the number to call about it. And the rest, as they say, is history. Although it is kind of fun to talk about. So I had husband call and see if it was available, and he's like, oh yeah, it's available and everything. Now understand, he was not on board with this, right? I said, well, where is it? And it was just down the street. So I started visiting it. And husband was flying a lot at the time, and he was partners in 2 private planes. And when I say that, understand, when I say partners, they're very small planes. It's not like, Learjets and whatnot. But when you have partners in these smaller planes, it makes it more affordable. So he was a partner in 2 planes. And I just kept going on and on about how I wanted to renovate this Bloodmobile. Now understand, it was a Bloodmobile. It wasn't an RV. I mean, it had the Bloodmobile chairs, it had all the, all the bandages, the lollipops, the whole 9 yards. So to walk in it, you couldn't really see the vision. I could, and he was like, I'd be more apt to do this if you had a partner. And as I said to him, if it was an RV and people could see what was going to be made of it, they might be more apt to be a partner. But it's really hard when you're like, hey, do you want to, give me some money and we'll go in on this Bloodmobile? So anyway, I had a diesel mechanic come in and check it, and by the time he was done, he was like, "What are you going to do with this thing?" And I told him, and he was like, "Pfft." Well, by the time he was done looking at it, he was like, "You could scrap this for what you're going to buy it for." And he's like, "If you don't buy it, I will." So I took husband out for taco. We went and looked at it one more time. This was like our 5th trip there. I took husband out for tacos, and the taco joint that we go to has fortune cookies. And I opened up my fortune cookie, and it said, "Do the dream, take the ride." And so I just handed it to him, and he's like, "All right, fine." So we went and bought it. And his caveat was, I think it was like September when we bought it. And his caveat was, "I don't want next September to ask you, how's the bus going?" and it's still not done. So I made him a promise that I would have it done by April and ready to go for Sun and Fun, which is a big aviation event down here. And everybody brings their RVs and hangs out for the week. And so that was my goal. So I took it down to St. Pete, and my dad and I worked on it. Every day I had off, I went down to St. Pete and worked on it. My dad worked on it in between when I wasn't there. So it was quite the daddy-daughter project. It's also known as Clarabelle. And I have a WordPress blog about it that I started when we were doing it. So I think it's called The Wanderings of Clarabelle, and I'll put the link here for you. And then I also have a Facebook page called The Adventures of Clarabelle, which husband said, "Why didn't you make them both the same?" I'm like, I didn't remember what was what. So I have all of that stuff. So you can see the inside of Clarabelle, and we've redone her a few times. It's all white inside now, and I absolutely love it. The best thing about having a school bus is the community. We went to a couple of schoolie swarms and met the nicest people. Now you have people that are the far end of hippie, and you have people that, you be careful with your leg, mister. Sorry, I got out with the dogs. The first time we went, I'm like, I don't know, this might be even too hippie for me, but the people are so wonderful and sweet, and you want to talk about community. I would have a school bus just for that myself personally. But anyway, so we have had Clarabelle for about 7 years now, and we take her to all the football games. We've taken her to Georgia. We've taken her to Texas. We've taken her all over and walked the Florida Trail and so on and so forth. And it's been great. So great that when we would come home to our 2,600 square foot house, we would be like, yeah, we don't need all this house. We're perfectly happy in a small bus. So that got us thinking about retirement and what did we want to do for retirement. And so we pretty much knew that we wanted to unplug and drive around the country. But the problem with Clarabelle is that she doesn't have a lot of get up and go. She only goes 59 miles an hour, and that's flat. If you start going uphill, she goes about 30 miles an hour. So if we're going to go out west where there's mountains and everything, it just doesn't really work as much as we would love for it to work. So this past year, husband started talking about wander lodges, and they don't make wander lodges anymore. Bluebird, who makes Clarabelle, who makes all the school buses, made RVs, and they were called wander lodges. And in their day, they were the Cadillac. So they were $300,000 and $400,000 back in the day. So, I mean, in 1990, 2000s, I think they quit somewhere around 2000, 2010. But I mean, they were at the top of the line. Like if somebody pulled up in a wander lodge, you were like, hey now. Husband's telling me all this, I don't know it to be true. So when we started talking about getting another RV, bus, whatever, that would take us around the country, we both decided we wanted a bus. We didn't want an RV because we've seen the construction on regular RVs. Not to poo-poo what other people do, but for us, we just knew we wanted a bus shell because they're stronger. They're made out of steel, not plywood. And husband said, you know, if I was going to do it, I would do a Wanderlodge. So we just kind of started looking at Wanderlodges. And a few months ago, husband had his eye on this one, and we were just kind of like, yeah, you know, we weren't in any real hurry. We kind of figured we'd have had a few more years. And this one that we kept looking at, or two actually, but the one we kept looking at, they dropped their price by $15,000. And it was already a good price. So we got in the car and we drove up to Alabama. And on the way, we looked at both. One was in the Panhandle and one was in Alabama. And we looked at them both, and we made an offer on the one we purchased. And so we brought it home. And so starts our adventure. So this is already a pretty long video, so I will stop here, but I'll do some more video later. You want to say goodbye, Theodore? Bye. All right. If you have any questions at all, plop them down, message me, whatever. I am happy to talk with you about things. You know, I'm off for at least another 30 days with this coronavirus, as you can tell from my roots, coronavirus thing. So if you have any questions about tiny living, I probably can help. All right, take care. Bye-bye.